A very good afternoon to all of you. So, here we are today with the 5th session of DAM. Okay. In this particular test, you will see two important topics, okay, which are not mentioned in your syllabus. That is multiculturalism and nationalism. All right. You are supposed to cover these topics. Okay. I have already sent the book list from where they have to be referred on your own in case you have not studied it. Okay, so don't ignore these two topics. Already multiculturalism has been asked, okay, despite not being mentioned in the syllabus. So UPSC has asked a question on Bhikkhu Parekh's views of multiculturalism. So there is always a possibility that nationalism can emerge as a question. Okay, anyways, UPSC is venturing into unknown concepts of the mentioned syllabus thinkers and also outside syllabus topics. Okay, so there are many topics which are outside syllabus, somewhere linked indirectly, directly. तो करना पड़ेगा. अब edge लेना है तो we'll have to do that extra work apart from the syllabus also. Okay. With respect to today's session, I will only be covering the topics of the UPSC syllabus, right? We will be covering feminism and fascism. Okay, Gandhism I will be dealing when I will be dealing with Gandhi as a thinker. So you will be able to interlink Gandhi's ideas and Gandhism as an ideology in a more better way. Okay, so आज we will discuss only two ideologies and the questions. Okay, chalo. So let's come. I will first discuss feminism. Okay. Now there is no UPSC paper, ठीक है, जहाँ पे women का question नहीं होगा, right? So feminism you will see in some way or the other, okay, or issues related to women will always be there in your paper. Okay, so very important topic, very important to write essays and अगर empowerment, women empowerment पे भी कोई ऐसे आता है तो you can use these quotes without naming the thinkers as such. Okay, very remunerative for the marks. So okay, so what is the concern, the central concern of feminism? Okay, it is with respect to the status and role, okay, of women, right, in comparison to men. Okay, so this is a central concern with respect to feminism. Okay, now many times we use the terminology meta ideology. Okay, now what is this idea of meta ideology? Okay, meta ideology means it is one big school of thought which has multiple variants within it. Okay, so meta ideology means like an umbrella school of thought with various divisions or various varieties. Okay, right? So yes, feminism is very much a meta ideology. Okay, and what do we say? It is like an umbrella ideology in that sense. So with respect to the origins and development. Okay, now so we have understood the central concern. Now even though different varieties of feminism talk about different ways of achieving the status and role of women in vis-a-vis the men, okay, which is the central concern, despite having variations in how they want to achieve them. Okay, some achieve it through the legal political means, some through the economic means, and some through the cultural means in the sphere, in the personal sphere. Okay, So there are different ways of doing the same common thread, okay, golden thread in all of them is achieving status and role of women in society in relation to the men, okay. Now, so where did we see the origin, okay, and origin of feminism? The origin of feminism we can see in the ancient Greece, okay, wherein even wherein Plato, okay, is sometimes known as first feminist, right? Why we call Plato as the first feminist? Because he is talking about the important role, okay, that women can play, right? With respect to education, with respect to the public sphere, and how women should be treated equally vis-a-vis men when it comes to education. So state should provide equal education to both men and women, that he talks about, okay. Obviously Plato's concern was not here with respect to women, okay, or he was not very much concerned about how women, it was not that concern, empathy towards women or something of that nature, all right. It was merely because he wanted to achieve the ideal state, and women, he felt, okay, played a contributory role in that regard, right? Now, yes, but he did take up women issues as an important prominent thinker. On the other hand, other thinkers like Aristotle, okay, who have not really taken so much concern, or even Machiavelli in that sense has not specifically mentioned important role to women. But we see, okay, important role that J.S. Mill also plays with respect to the subjection of women, and how women's role, okay, in the public sphere can in fact enhance democracy, okay, how it can lead to rather the utilitarian perspective of the other half, the greatest happiness of greatest number principle being fulfilled if women also participate in the public sphere. Now there were other women also, okay, like Christine de Pizan, right, who spoke about the rights of women, right, and Mary Wollstonecraft, right, she's a very early feminist, right, in the modern feminism. Now let's go to the waves of feminism. So what is this concept of waves of feminism? All right. So waves means the movement, okay, feminist movement. Feminism was a movement, all right, emerged in the form of waves. Means at a particular point of time, right, that particular thought gained a lot of prominence in the public arena, in the public debate, and it brought in a change in the thinking, okay, with every passing wave. So if one wave was concentrating too much on the legal and political rights and the economic rights, the second wave was focusing on the cultural aspect, okay, the family aspect, where patriarchy is very dominant, right, and the third wave is largely talking of how there are, so much hybridity, okay, within women also. Some women belong to different races, different religions, okay, different tribal women, okay. So women cannot be considered as one category. Women also have different identities, right? So there cannot be one way of looking at a fixed female identity. So because of the postmodernist influence, okay, that happens, right, on the ideology of feminism, we see that third wave of feminism has a lot of divisions, okay, of how women status and concern with respect to men in society has to be achieved, okay. So there is a lot of hybridity, there is a lot of, what do we say, in the third wave we see a lot of hybridity, okay, and we see the politics of difference that come into being. Is it clear? So who is the mother of feminism? Mary Wollstonecraft, okay. Now, so if we have to look at, okay, the different waves of feminism. So the first wave, okay, it is divided into two streams or two schools of thought. One is the liberal feminism, right, which is largely concerning with respect to the political and legal rights of women. Okay, but this liberal feminism is again challenged by socialist feminists, and they say that how liberalism seeks only to bring in, more emancipation of women through political and legal sphere is not sufficient. Women should also have, a role with respect to property, how they also should have an important, this entire war is not a sex war, but primarily it is the gender war, or it is, it is the class war, okay, not only a sex war, right? So, socialist feminists largely talk about, economic rights, and how capitalism has actually led to the, more violation and exploitation of condition of women. So until capitalism is abolished, we cannot expect emancipation, empowerment of women in the real sense as per socialist feminists. Now, since both emerged, okay, at the same time, these both things, okay, have been termed within the first wave. Now, second wave. All right. The second wave is saying that, okay, legal political rights, so economic rights is fine, but the real discrimination against women happens at the level of the family, and it is by the cultural factors, okay, like cultural phenomena in the form of patriarchy, okay, that exist within the family structures, which is actually oppressing women. Means women, her role has been confined to the household. She has been, strict to the, what do we say, activities of, reproduction, and her entire life cycle, okay, is only involved in such kind of activities. So until this cultural domination within the family doesn't change, okay, we cannot expect the true liberation of women. So women has to first get liberated from this entire, cycle of reproduction, okay. So all the artificial means of reproduction is something that they are trying to propagate also. So cultural sphere or cultural rights. Is it clear? So let's first discuss the thinkers, prominent thinkers in the first wave. Okay. Liberal feminism largely talks of equal opportunity for men and women, right? Mary Wollstonecraft is the most important work with respect to her book Vindication of the Rights of Women. Okay, so she says that prevailing belief in female inferiority, okay, which actually seeks that we should have equal rights for women in the public political sphere. Even John Stuart Mill is a very important liberal feminist thinker, okay, where he talks about the subjection of women and how he thinks about that if women also participate in the public sphere, it is very good for democracy. Then in the first wave, all right, we see socialist feminism emerging, okay, in the works of, firstly, in the works of Engels himself, okay, that position of women, right, has actually become very bad because of the development of capitalism and institution of private property. And why does Engels say, okay, that this kind of institution happens, that women are being subjugated in capitalism? Because in this capitalism, okay, private property has to be largely stuck within the, what do we say, family only. Means we do not want to redistribute property in the public sphere. So that is why women's role gets confined to the family sphere, and marriages also happen within the family and things like this happen, okay. So this is what he says. So until we actually fight capitalism, we really cannot fight the subjugation of women, okay. Then also other feminists, right, with respect to the socialist feminism is the Sheila Robotham, right. She also talks about how decentralized approach has to be brought, okay, to social change, and women's liberation is actually because there is this entire class conflict. So only when women's liberation will be happening, only when this entire class struggle is over, okay. So Sheila Robotham also talks about what? She also talks about the socialist feminism. So we have angels here and we have Sheila Robotham. All right. Here we have Wollstonecraft. Right. And Mill. So then comes in picture the second wave of feminism. Okay. And we have radical feminism, okay, in the form of a very important writing by a thinker, which her name is Simone de Beauvoir. So how she explains, okay, that one is not born a woman but becomes a woman. So second wave, right, Simone de Beauvoir. Okay. One is not born but becomes a woman. So she says how socialization as a process, okay, gives essence, gives identity, okay, to women. What is their role, right? And they become rather the object, okay, not the subject. Means I as a person, my own individuality does not exist. My identity is the one which is given to me by society, okay. So this kind of essence which becomes very important, right? And that shapes how women have to be nurturing, what is the role that women have to exercise in society. And the whole process of women is not about with which sex you are born, okay, but how gender is shaped, how it is a mental social process, okay. That is what Simone de Beauvoir is talking about. Then we have other women, okay, other feminists like Betty Friedan, right, and Shula Smith Firestone, all right. Even she talks about how there is dialectics of sex, okay. So Betty Friedan says it is a problem which cannot be defined, how the whole subjugation of women happen, okay, the kind of oppression she goes through, the kind of discrimination she goes through. So it is a problem which really is very difficult to define, says Betty Friedan, okay. And then we have Shula Smith Firestone, she talks of dialectics of sex. So she says there is no dialectics of anything else, okay, there is only dialectics of sex. So actually it is the gender war or the sex war which is primary, not other wars like class wars and other things. Across history, right, there has always been a conflict between man and woman. So that's what Shula Smith Firestone is explaining. Then let's understand, okay, so we have explained the first three concepts: introduction, origins and development, right, waves of feminism. Now let's study the core themes, okay. So what is patriarchy? Patriarchy क्या होता है? Okay, so patriarchy is a power relationship. Okay, means one is the dominant and the other is the submissive. Right? This is patriarchy, right? So the most and the first important thing, okay, within feminism is the concept of patriarchy and how it brings about different layers of oppression, discrimination in various social, political, economic, legal, cultural, family spheres and public spheres also. Then when we say the second important theme, okay, is redefining the political. So largely we understand that political is something, or politics is something which takes place within the public sphere, okay, means we are making a distinction in general parlance between what sphere of life? Public sphere of life and the personal sphere of life, है ना? तो मैकियावेली क्या बोलता था, right? Morals for personal and public are different. We cannot have the same morals, right? So the distinction in politics is largely between public and personal. But what do the feminists say? Okay, feminists say it's wrong to make this distinction. They say personal is political, means both ways. Okay, तो public life में जो domination हो रहा है वो personal में भी हो रहा है, and what happens in personal again get reflected in public. So let's take example. For in the family, okay, if you teach your male child, right, that he is more important, or he should act very manly, and you always teach your daughter to be submissive, you tell her you should learn household work, don't empower yourself too much, don't overthink, don't feel too liberated. So what is happening? You are giving a kind of a training in the home only, home environment only, of how they should behave. You are socializing them to be typically a boy and typically a girl, okay? So what will happen when now this boy, okay, when he or she enters, when he enters in the public sphere, he will automatically think that, if he becomes, for example, the Prime Minister of India or Chief Minister, okay, or he goes to, participate in some election process, और ही becomes a bureaucrat also, civil servant बन गया, IAS बन गया वो लड़का, उसके दिमाग में ये पेट्रियार्की जाएगी? नहीं जाएगी. वो वहां पर भी औरतों को डोमिनेट करेंगे. They will not take that bureaucrat will never consider women's issues, a dowry, other things. They normal है, ये तो सब सोसाइटी में होता है. So you are training your child, okay, socializing your child in such a format कि वो public life में भी जब enter करते हैं, ठीक है, तो जो differences और discrimination तुमने boy और girl में बनाए वो carry forward होंगे. तो personal life की discrimination go into public, और पब्लिक में जो होता है वो पर्सनल में आता है. कैसे आता है? जैसे अगर हमारे लॉज, अगर हमारा स्टेट, ओके, इज नॉट वेरी मच कंसर्न्ड ऑफ वुमेन्स इश्यूज, तो क्या होगा? तो फिर हमारे पर्सनल लाइफ में भी ऐसे होगा. अगर देयर आर डिवोर्स लॉज विच आर नॉट फेवरेबल टू मेन, वुमेन, okay, if there are temple entry movements, right, if women, if the Supreme Court did not come to the rescue of women, right, what would have happened? And would have said, ठीक है यार, औरतों को नहीं allowed है, you are passing through some cycle in your monthly period, okay, whatever, you will not be allowed in the Sabrimala. अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ऐसा स्टैंड ले लिया होता, तो क्या the way my personal sphere is to conduct my religious practice, to pray to God, if the state does not favor me, how will I go and pray to God? So even the public sphere enters the personal. तो आप जो ये डिस्टिंक्शन बना रहे हो अकॉर्डिंग टू फेमिनिस्ट इज इनकरेक्ट, कि आप पब्लिक और पर्सनल में डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं कर सकते, राइट? सो दे वांट टू रीडिफाइन द पॉलिटिकल. नाउ, so patriarchy also another important distinction, okay, a very important theme is difference between sex and gender. I hope it's clear since you all are UPSC aspirant. Sex is a biological term in general terms, and we know how biology is defined. I doubt I will have to clear it, okay? Now, gender is what? So when, if biologically you are a boy or you are a girl, right? If the society does not teach you that you cannot wear pink, you should only wear blue color, right? You should only be a good doctor, lawyer, civil servant, You should be a nurse. Okay? You should be a housewife. If society teaches you these kind of roles, okay, means they are shaping your gender. So gender is a social category, right? It is how you are training, okay, a biological sex born individual to a particular social norm, culture of society. Varies everywhere. Okay, US girls are different from Indian girls, US boys are different from Indian boys. तो जैसी जहाँ की सोसाइटी वैसा जेंडर शेप होता है. और with respect to women, तो largely we know across the world it's so universal. I know I might sound more feminist like this, but it's not the case. Okay. Then with respect to equality, okay, right? So what is the idea of equality in feminism? So there is a lot of fault lines within feminism कि कौन सी equality से actually female equality or women will have social equality, right? Or similar status. So liberals say there should be legal and political equality. Okay. Then socialists say economic equality, right? Radical feminists are concerned about equality where in personal sphere, मतलब at the level of family. डायपर्स मैं ही क्यों साफ करूं बच्चे के, तुम भी तो करो, ठीक है. Now so let's come to the third wave of feminism now in detail. So why this entire third wave feminism, actually how it is being shaped, okay? So third wave feminism firstly says, okay, it is influenced by the postmodernist thinking. Right? So we have ideas of Foucault also. Now I'll specifically just discuss Foucault, okay, how you have to look at postmodernist feminism, right? So specifically Foucault का thinking ये था कि we feel that the biological sciences are neutral. मतलब यार वुमेन इज वीकर सेक्स अगर साइंस में पढ़ाया जाता है, राइट, कि बॉडी से, तो हम ऐसे सोचते हैं ना कि यार ये तो सच है, अब इसमें कोई झूठ नहीं हो सकता. So Foucault says we consider that these biological sciences are neutral. Okay, they define what is normal and abnormal, but there is a possibility that even the concept of sex, okay, is perforated. Means even sex, okay, how it has been defined, right, how biological sciences have spoken about the female sex or the male sex, even that can be false. So we can't say that the distinction like sex and gender, sex is very clear and gender is very unclear and it's largely social. In fact, how gender differences exist within a society also shape how biological sciences define the term sex. Okay, so this is the idea Foucault actually talks about. Postmodernist thinking have contributed to third wave by saying one very important thing, that there is no fixed female identity, either in terms of sex or gender, because women are diversified across various layers of oppression, and these various layers of oppression can be religious, across race, across countries, okay, right, and many other ways. So since there is so much differences, hybridity within women, we cannot have a fixed female identity, okay, whether who is empowered, who is not empowered. So that's how third wave feminism emerges, and within it there are many other varieties, okay, like new feminism, black feminism, post-colonial feminism, सब थर्ड वेव का पार्ट है, पोस्ट मॉडर्निस्ट फेमिनिज्म, is it clear? ठीक है, so this is how there is a lot of hybridity, right, which come. Then some say कि यार फेमिनिज्म की जरूरत ही नहीं है, एरा ऑफ पोस्ट फेमिनिज्म आ गया है, मतलब अभी वुमेन आर सफिशिएंटली एम्पावर्ड, क्यों इनके बारे में बातें करते रहते हो, काम कर रहे हैं, खाना मिल रहा है, पीना मिल रहा है, हाँ, चिल करने मिल रहा है, why are you talking of all the time women are being discriminated, where are they being discriminated? So post feminism is that school of thought, okay, do not agree with that too much, right? So yes, now so even new feminism separates personal from political, okay, means the state actually should not control, right, how women have to dress themselves, how they conduct themselves, their behavior, okay, with respect to even their sexual behavior, state should not be doing policing. Now, so yes, is feminism relevant? Very much relevant, right? Issues continue. You can quote present feminist movements being a little divided, but yes, the inherent idea, okay, with which we started, the status and role of women in relation to men in society, has been a coherent system of thinking within all schools of feminism, okay. So this is one understanding that we take out of it. So yes, another important concept, sorry I missed out, was feminist theory of state. Right? So what do women say, or what do feminist theory of state? So actually there is no as such feminist theory of state, right? Susan Moller-Okin and Carol Hanisch, okay, they say that when I look at the state, it appears male to me. Okay, so what is the inherent understanding in this particular statement? That personal is political. So how the state is male? First, similarly how we saw it, that state interferes in the lives of women through various institutions, through state laws, okay, divorce laws, marriage laws, inheritance, property. And similarly, okay, what patriarchal structures are existing within the level of family again get reflected in the state. So that's how we say that feminist theory of state, okay, largely says how personal is political. Clear? Now let's come back to a very important school of thought, fascism. So is it an ideology? Is fascism an ideology? Or should I call it sick mental attitude? Or should I call it political opportunism? Or should I call it hodgepodge of ideas? Or should I say it is political pathology, okay, that results, right, when the masses lose their common sense, hai na? So we never say that fascism is a coherent view, okay, of looking at the world, right? Why so? Because we see other schools of thought have a coherent understanding of reason and logical way, okay, or scientific way, okay, for looking at the world, be it liberalism, hai na, or be it socialism or Marxism. They all provide some kind of a critical inquiry, some scientific thinking, and explain, okay, the basis of their ideology through some logical context. But that is not what fascism seeks to do. It is rather said that fascism is an anti-enlightenment ideology. Fascism is an anti-enlightenment ideology. Why so? Is because what is it that we learned in Western Europe, okay, right? After enlightenment, what were the important values of enlightenment, right? So we spoke about freedom, we spoke about progress of man, we spoke about values like democracy. But what did fascism actually sought to do? Reverse each of them. Subordination of individual to the state. Progress is only termed state progress, means your individual progress is not of any matter. And there is a complete obedience, okay? No free will that should be exercised by state. So that is why there is no rationality, okay, within the fascist ideology, right? And so it is largely based on, emotions, okay, evoking emotions in humans who are guided by fear or some historical situation that has developed around them, okay. So let's see. So with respect to understanding of fascism, we know what it is. It is derived from what word? Fasci, okay, and fasci means bundle of rods with an X blade, right? So intellectual precursors of fascism. Who were the intellectual precursors of fascism? So yes, did the thinkers emerge first or the ideology emerged first? Okay, so actually fascism as an ideology emerged first, but certainly they had to say that there is some rational basis. There are thinkers whose ideas can be linked to what we as a fascist ideology are propagating. So they devised the mechanism of intellectual thinkers, okay, to justify their ideology. So who becomes the first victim? Who becomes the first? Of course, Plato, okay, because he gives the idea of rule of an individual in the form of philosopher kings. He states state is supreme, okay, and individuals should sacrifice for common good. So this kind of thing, okay, is again traced back to fascism in the 20th century, right? So we know it's particularly a 20th century phenomena. Then the extreme individualism, okay, that is there in Hobbesian thinking, right? Power politics, even that has been traced. Then Machiavelli's expansionist foreign policy doctrine of aggrandizement has also been taken as an intellectual precursor, right? To the extent of Rousseau's general will also, okay, that people are submitting qualitatively. They are not by force, right? Then Hegel, state is march of God on earth, so we should obey. It is only state, right? That is, what do we say, the embodiment of God on the earth. Then Darwin's survival of the fittest, okay. Herder's cultural nationalism has also been derived from, what do we say, for the fascist intellectualism. Other thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche, okay. Friedrich Nietzsche's powerful emotions in human being can be evoked, okay, for them to follow an absolutist leader like Hitler and Mussolini, right? Sorrell, what does George Sorrell say? That you should create political myths, okay. When you create political myths, that's what makes you win in politics, not actually what is the truth. And what does Henry Bergson say, right? We should emphasize on, instinct and impulse of individuals, right? Then their intellect and reason. So yes, these are the intellectual precursors of fascism. So we know fascism originated, right, in Italy and Germany, like it's a child of the 20th century. Now, next, let's see the core themes. So the core themes is irrationalism, anti-rationalism, anti-enlightenment. Second is okay. So anti-rationalism. Then racialism, pure German race, right? The Aryan race is the most purest race, okay? There should not be any mixing. So racialist basis, right? Uske baad elitism. God has made some people different. Some people are born to rule, okay? Then statism. State is march of God on earth. Extreme statism, okay? Then imperialism to achieve their means. Ultranationalism to gain the appeal of masses, evoke their emotions and fear. Militarism, right? Using violent means, okay, to create a huge military, to attack other states and things like that. So these are the core themes, okay, within fascism. Now let's see fascism and the state. So what is the nature of the state in fascism? Batao. Okay. So there are certain dimensions of the fascist state. Right. Firstly, okay, totalitarianism, encompassing all spheres of your life. State will control all spheres of your life. Okay, there is no sphere which can be out of the state's control. Then single party should be the party ruling the state. So there is no multi-party system here. Okay. Then there has to be absolute leadership. So, absolute leadership and totalitarianism of right. Okay, so there is concentration of power. These are the important features of fascist state. Now, what is it in the economic sphere? How do we call the state? We call it the corporate state. So there is no actually contradiction between the labor, okay, and the capitalist, okay, or the those who own property or those who own wealth. So state acts like a mediator between laborers and entrepreneurs or industrialized class, okay, by means of small corporations. Thus, we call it as a corporate state, right? And there is autarky. Autarky means no relation with foreign economy, no relation with international economy, okay? We are a self-sufficient economy. So, it is a corporate state, okay? Then let's move. So, fascism and challenges to contemporary life. So, what is fascism today? How is fascism? Okay. So, we say we have seen two important thinkers, okay? If you all know, Ernst Nolte and Erich Fromm. So, they explain the origin of, basis of origin of fascism, right? So, one says it is because of the historical circumstances in a particular time. मतलब इंटरवॉर पीरियड था, डिप्रेशन हो गया, एंड फ्रॉम सेज नहीं, ह्यूमन नेचर जहां जहां साइकोलॉजी इज गाइडेड बाय फियर, वहां फैसिज्म इमर्ज होगा. ओके, इज इट क्लियर? So, I was talking about fascism, right? How origin of fascism can be explained. One is historical circumstances that were there peculiarly in the 20th century, early 20th century. Okay, the historical war period was there. There was Great Depression. Okay, there was ideologies of imperialism, militarism, colonialism. An arms race was going on, and all this garb. Okay, even the peace treaties were not very justifiable to the losing parties. So entire situation ऐसी हो गई कि fascism emerged. Okay, and Erich Fromm says no, human nature is naturally guided by fear. Whenever there will be fear in man, absolute leader will emerge to appeal the masses. Okay, so if we have to look at fascism, okay, in the present century, how do we explain fascism in the present century? So this human nature, okay, or the psychology of humans, which is guided by fear, will re-emerge wherever there will be democracy, which will not be able to give development to people. So if democracy is unable to deliver development to people, okay, it leads to what? It leads to instability, it leads to fear. Okay, and historical circumstances, right, that are there, like after the globalization, to what extent right? How this entire period has been very good for all sections of society. How equitable it has been. It has not been. So fascism, even in the 21st century, will happen, okay, when democracy, okay, is unable to deliver development, because it leads to instability, it leads to discontent, it leads to us versus them, it leads to developed versus developing countries, it leads to racial disharmony, okay, it leads to religious fundamentalism, it leads to terrorism. And that's why, okay, fascism takes different forms in different places. Militaristic fascism, militant fascism, Islamofascism in Middle East, neo-fascism, like rightist parties are rising across Europe, America, even in India. We won't write that. Democratic fascism, India में बोलते हैं ना, ठीक है, right? So fascism will emerge as per different circumstances and also because of human nature. So neo-fascism also is one variant of fascism which has emerged. There is also democratic fascism, there is Islamofascism, religious fundamentalism, terrorism is all variants, okay, of fascism in the present century. Now let's see the question, so you will get a better sense of what we are saying. So the question is saying, is there a comeback be very careful and rise of fascism in 21st century? To what extent is modern neo-fascism a genuine form of fascism? A genuine form of fascism. So what is the underlying theme? Right? Is there a comeback and rise of fascism in 21st century? So we are talking about that fascism as you know in history kabhi hua tha, right? Some century ago, and it is again, has it actually वो उसी period में वो fascism था and it is over, or is there actually a comeback? So since the question in the very first line is establishing a historical linkage, okay, the first structure, okay, of your question will be the explanation of historical evolution of fascism, how it is a 20th century phenomenon, okay, right, and how it was a revolt against the ideas of enlightenment. So understood? We have established how it is a historical phenomenon. Now we are explaining how fascism originates. Origin क्या है? Reason of origin क्या है? तो reason को हम दो ways में explain कर रहे हैं. Okay? One, in the view of Nolte, as I explained, historically, right? कि जब भी historical situation ऐसी हो जाती है, तो fascism emerge होता है. And other is from says, अरे इंसान तो डरा हुआ ही रहता है. You just need the right person to evoke that kind of emotion, right? So you say that why fascism originates, कहीं पर भी, तब हुआ या 21st century में हुआ, in any period, 20th के बारे में बोलो या 21st, हमने reason के दो theoretical basis बताए. Now, what we will be saying, so is there a comeback and rise, okay, of fascism in 21st century. Now we will say how. Okay. So we say, what were the events in the end of 20th century? Okay. Which led to the rise of fascism again. Right. So we see similar historical circumstances like when it emerged in 1920 onwards. वैसे similar हुए कब? 1990s onwards we see similar circumstances. Okay. How? What were the events? Okay. So first was fascist leaders. Okay. Then financial crisis. Global economy was not equitably beneficial to everybody. Globalization was not favorable to every section of society. Okay. Established political parties operating on normal mode are not able to solve this inequality crisis. Okay. All this is happening in 1990 onwards worldwide, right? तो historical situation तो ऐसी बन गई कि 21st century में इस type का anti-rational, okay, extreme state, extreme absolute leadership type attitude लोगों में आ जाए, nationalism वापस emerge होने लग जाए, right? Which we witnessed in the 21st century. तो वो boil तो हो रहा था और यहाँ पर bubble broke, right? This view has been explained in respect of America by a scholar named as David Stewart. And he says, okay, that this far right movement जो हो रहा है अभी ट्रम्प के आने से नहीं हुआ है, ये जो सब हुआ है ना 1990s से, उन सब का ये extreme highest point है which people are expressing by supporting Trump. So it's not like it just because of leadership, but it is because of disillusionment and discontent that had started in 1990s, 80s, because of the whole way economy is operating, how differences, discrimination has been there, okay? How globalization has been not very beneficial, addressing needs of all societies, leading also to financial crisis in 2008. So everything has only done what? Okay? United, David Stewart said, so all these factors have only been united by Trump. There is only reassertion of these factors. So there is very much the rise of fascism because of historical circumstances. David Stewart talks like Eric Ernst Nolte. Historical situation ऐसी हो गई है कि वापस जितनी uncertainty 1920s में थी वो 1990s onwards आ चुकी है, जिसकी वजह से fascism re-emerge हो रहा है. Now let's go. Okay. So this is how you should have spoken about different phenomena. Now, also, we say that to what extent the modern fascism, neo-fascism is a genuine form. So we say no, it is not like the earlier fascism. Okay, why it is not genuine? It is because, okay, that time there was too much of brutality, right? There was too much of violence, too much of force, that was genocide work. So today this kind of extreme inhuman tendencies has not been there. So it is not the original version of fascism, okay? It is, neo-fascism has certain historical situations, okay, even the psychology of humans being shaped by fear, instability, and that is why leaders enjoy mass appeal. But it cannot be said a genuine form. It is not genuine. It is not genuine because it's not brutal like the fascism of 20th century, right? This is what should be the answer. Now, so then we say, so do we say fascism is ended? No, okay. There is possibility and rise in future. Again, if historical circumstances are favorable or the psychological reason in human nature is explored. Okay? So I have explained with lot of examples, given it a very contemporary touch, linked it with all kind of close protectionist tendencies like Brexit, also anti-immigration policies. It's a very contemporary answer. We are analyzing, comparing fascism of 20th century, 21st century. We also put in the view of Ijaz Ahmad, who says that yes, fascism takes different forms in different places according to the social circumstances, okay, that exist within that particular society. So that's how you explain this situation. What innovation you could have done? So fascism and neo-fascism, okay, occurs because of historical factors. दोनों का लिखना है. And psychological factors. So clearly you have established the link with the question. की thinking यही है, ये दो reasons की वजह से rise होता है. Now let's move. Quote the books, quote the thinkers, contemporary thinkers हैं. Okay. Now the second question. I have already explained it in feminism. I'll elaborate how you could have answered it in a better manner. Okay. So question reads, how third wave feminism is a response to limitations. So एक component है ये question का, ठीक है. और कौन से दो फेमिनिज्म की बात चल रही है? थर्ड की चल रही है और सेकेंड वेव की चल रही है. ओके. So what are the limitations of second wave? This will be one structure we have realized. Response to limitations of second wave feminism and result of political social transformations brought about by second wave. मतलब कहने का ये है क्वेश्चन का कि जो सेकेंड वेव फेमिनिज्म थी उसने इतना पॉजिटिव रोल प्ले किया कि और नए इश्यूज केम अप. ऑलरेडी द सेकेंड वेव फेमिनिज्म हैज अचीव्ड इनफ ऑन विच थर्ड वेव इज बिल्डिंग. इसी पे कंटिन्यूटी है. और दूसरा एस्पेक्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन कह रहा है इन्होंने इतना अचीव नहीं किया. There were lot of limitations. That is why third wave emerges. वरना आती ही नहीं. So we will address both aspects. Okay, debate is there supporting this view also and supporting this view also. Okay, मतलब ऐसे नहीं कहना इन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया और ऐसे नहीं कहना है कि ये भी इररिलेवेंट है. दोनों का अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन और लिमिटेशंस है, ठीक है, इन दी प्रेजेंट. अब इन दोनों में क्या लिंक है? ऑब्वियसली फेमिनिज्म लिंक है. और हम क्या बता रहे हैं? फेमिनिज्म के दो क्या एस्पेक्ट्स है? ये देयर आर टू एस्पेक्ट्स, राइट? Means when we say these are two schools of thought, what are we saying to feminism? So feminism is a umbrella ideology or meta ideology with other schools of thought in it. This should be your connecting introductory line, right? So the first line is explaining feminism as a meta ideology and umbrella ideology. Okay. Now we talk first about second wave feminism, radical feminism, cultural aspect, right? Who were the thinkers? Simone de Beauvoir, Kate Millett, German Greer, right? What is their major thesis? That gender is the most common division and you have to achieve to abolish this at the level of the family. In the cultural sphere. Okay, right? So not only that radical feminism has addressed earlier issues like political, legal rights, okay, economic rights, but also the cultural aspect, right? Now why is third wave feminism emerging? इन्होंने ये कर दिया, मतलब some positive they have done, तो ये we have established. So but it could not understand, second wave feminism could not understand the layers of oppression that exist amongst women. So comes third wave to talk about the layers of oppression, which should be your third paragraph. Okay, talking of religion, ethnicity, class, right? This all aspects, है ना? Then you talk about the different versions of third wave feminism. So how they are influenced by postmodern feminist. When we are talking about the contributory role of third wave feminism, automatically we are saying that second wave feminism ने ये सब address नहीं किया जो इन्होंने किया. So talk of postmodernist feminism, talk of new feminism, talk about black feminism, talk about post-colonial feminism, and talk about the various layers. Okay. Once this is done, say that third wave feminism had a problem, that is lack of cohesion. No doubt, feminism eventually addresses one common concern which is there in every school of thought, be it this radical feminism or be it the third wave feminism. Okay, that is status and role of women. So you have to conclude in this fashion. Have to talk in the like 2 lines about all these versions. Clear? Now what is the innovation we could have done? So we could have explained the waves. Okay. First wave, liberal, socialist. Then you talk of second wave, radical. Here talk of political and legal rights. Here economic rights. यहाँ cultural rights. ठीक है? और उसके बाद third wave. What is the major concern? Layers of oppression. and politics of difference. मतलब एग्जामिनर को क्लियर हो गया, फर्स्ट वेव पता है, सेकेंड वेव पता है, थर्ड वेव, और हर वेव ने क्या काम किया है वो बता दिया, बस ये दिखा दो, वेव्स ऑफ फेमिनिज्म, डन. So this is about ideology is over, your western political thought is over. जिनका रिविजन नहीं हुआ है, ठीक है, आपको वीकेंड मिलता है, नॉट ओनली फॉर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट वीकेंड बट ऑल्सो टेक द वीकेंड. एक तो पूरे वीक का समरी पढ़ो, इवेल्युएशन का, पूरे वीक में जो टॉपिक्स कवर नहीं हुए हैं, पुट इन 2-3 hours of work to complete that, right? And then again you start with a fresh Monday for the new topics. Okay, all the best, take care.